The small, isolated town of Ravenswood lay nestled in the heart of a dense, dark forest. November had arrived, and with it came the biting chill that sent shivers down the spines of the townsfolk. The days were growing shorter, and the nights longer, casting the town in an eerie, almost surreal glow. Samantha Miller had always loved the autumn season. The vibrant hues of red and gold, the scent of bonfires in the crisp air, and the sound of leaves crunching beneath her feet brought her joy. She had moved to Ravenswood a few months ago, drawn to its seclusion and the promise of peace. But now, as November's gloom descended, she couldn't help but feel a growing unease. Samantha worked from home as a freelance writer, which meant she spent most of her days alone in her cozy cabin. Her only companions were the words on her computer screen, and her beloved dog, Max. The two of them would often take long walks in the woods, enjoying the solitude that Ravenswood offered. One chilly afternoon, as Samantha was typing away at her latest article, Max started to grow restless. He paced around the cabin, whining and scratching at the door. "What's gotten into you, Max?" Samantha asked, her fingers pausing on the keyboard. She glanced out the window, but the forest was dark and foreboding, and she couldn't see anything unusual. Max's behavior persisted, and Samantha decided to take him for a walk to calm his nerves. She bundled up in her warmest coat and scarf and opened the cabin door. The cold air hit her like a wave, causing her to shiver involuntarily. Max led the way into the woods, his nose twitching as he picked up on an elusive scent. As they wandered deeper into the forest, the light grew dimmer, and Samantha began to feel a growing sense of unease. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She tried to dismiss it as paranoia, but the sensation persisted. Just as she was about to turn back, Max suddenly stopped and began growling, his hackles raised. Samantha followed his gaze and gasped. In a small clearing, there stood a circle of eerie, flickering candles, their flames dancing with a life of their own. In the center of the circle lay an old, weathered book. Samantha approached cautiously and picked it up. The book was bound in cracked leather and filled with handwritten pages covered in strange symbols and incantations. As she leafed through it, a sense of dread washed over her. She realized that this was no ordinary book. It was a grimoire, a book of dark magic. Who could have left this here? Samantha muttered to herself. She couldn't fathom how something like this had ended up in the heart of the forest. With a sense of urgency, she hurried back to her cabin, Max trailing behind her. She placed the grimoire on her dining table and decided to research its origins and purpose, hoping to unravel the mystery that had suddenly intruded into her life. Samantha spent the night poring over the ancient grimoire, deciphering the cryptic symbols and incantations as best as she could. The more she read, the more unsettling the book became. It was filled with spells and rituals that seemed designed to call upon dark forces and summon otherworldly entities. She couldn't understand why such a book would be hidden in the woods of Ravenswood. The next morning, Samantha's unease only grew. She couldn't help but feel that the book was somehow connected to the strange occurrences in the town. She decided to seek out the advice of the town's only librarian, an elderly woman named Agnes, who had lived in Ravenswood her entire life. Agnes was a kind and knowledgeable woman, always willing to help those seeking answers. Samantha made her way to the small library, which was a quaint building filled with dusty tomes and the comforting scent of old books. Agnes was sitting at her desk, leafing through an ancient volume. "Agnes," Samantha began, "I found something in the woods. A grimoire. It's filled with dark magic, and I can't shake the feeling that it's connected to the strange things happening in Ravenswood." Agnes peered at Samantha over her reading glasses, her eyes filled with concern. "A grimoire, you say? That's not something to be taken lightly. Our town has a history of strange occurrences and folklore, but this is different. Let me take a look." Samantha handed over the grimoire to Agnes, who flipped through its pages with a mixture of fascination and trepidation. This is a rare find, Samantha. These spells and incantations are ancient, and some of them are quite dangerous. It's no wonder you've been feeling uneasy. Can you tell me anything about the book's origins? Samantha asked. Agnes sighed. I've heard whispers about a dark past in Ravenswood. Tales of rituals and sacrifices conducted by a secret cult that vanished long ago. I always thought these stories were mere superstition, but this grimoire suggests otherwise. There are mentions of a cursed artifact, a talisman of great power, hidden somewhere in these woods. Samantha's heart raced. Do you think this talisman has something to do with the strange occurrences? Agnes nodded. It's possible. If the grimoire is connected to the cult's activities, then finding this talisman may be the key to unraveling the mysteries of Ravenswood. But it's a dangerous path, Samantha. The dark forces at play here are not to be trifled with. As Samantha and Agnes delved deeper into their research, they uncovered unsettling stories about the cult that had once thrived in Ravenswood. The cult was said to have worshipped an ancient and malevolent deity, performing dark rituals deep within the forest. Their actions had eventually led to the disappearance of several townsfolk, and the townspeople had risen up to banish the cult, sealing their existence in the annals of history. The legend spoke of a powerful talisman that the cult had used to commune with their deity. It was believed to be hidden somewhere within the woods, its exact location shrouded in mystery. Samantha couldn't shake the feeling that she was being drawn into something far beyond her control. She and Agnes decided to embark on a quest to find the talisman and put an end to the strange happenings in Ravenswood once and for all. With Max in tow, they ventured deep into the forest, following the clues from the grimoire. As they navigated through the dark underbrush, they came across an eerie clearing where the trees seemed to twist and contort in unnatural ways. At its center, they found a large, gnarled oak tree, its roots forming a strange, twisted pattern on the ground. Samantha knelt down to examine the ground, noticing a circular impression that matched the symbol in the grimoire. It was clear that this was the spot where the cult had conducted their rituals. We must be close, Agnes whispered. The talisman is here, hidden beneath the roots of this tree. With Max's help, they began to dig, uncovering a chest made of dark, weathered wood. It was intricately carved with nightmarish figures and symbols that sent a shiver down Samantha's spine. When they opened the chest, they found the talisman resting inside, a twisted, black gemstone, pulsating with an eerie energy. Samantha hesitated, torn between the overwhelming sense of power emanating from the talisman and the knowledge of the darkness it represented. But there was no turning back now. As Samantha, Agnes, and Max returned to Ravenswood with the dark talisman, the town had grown even colder and more desolate. The shadows seemed to stretch longer, and the residents were haunted expressions on their faces. It was as if the very presence of the talisman had unleashed a malevolent force that pervaded the entire town. Samantha and Agnes knew they had to act quickly. They decided to seek the guidance of the town's oldest resident, an enigmatic figure known as Old Man Hawthorne. He had lived in Ravenswood for decades and was rumored to have knowledge of the town's darkest secrets. Old Man Hawthorne lived in a ramshackle cabin on the outskirts of town. His appearance was as mysterious as the rumors about him, with long, unkempt hair and a tattered robe that seemed to merge with the shadows around him. When Samantha and Agnes arrived at his cabin, they found him sitting by a flickering fire, his eyes filled with ancient wisdom. "We've found the talisman, Old Man Hawthorne," Samantha said, holding the dark gemstone, "but we fear it has brought a curse upon Ravenswood. Can you help us understand its power and how to neutralize it?" The old man gazed at the talisman, his eyes narrowing. "You've meddled in matters beyond your understanding, my dear. This talisman is a key to a realm of darkness, a gateway to a malevolent force that has long been sealed away. To control it is to risk unleashing chaos upon the world." Agnes spoke up, her voice filled with determination. "We cannot let the darkness consume our town. We must find a way to seal it once more, to banish the curse. Old Man Hawthorne nodded slowly. Very well, but this will be no easy task. To seal the talisman, you must perform a ritual at the very spot where you found it, during the darkest hour of the night, on the night of the new moon. But beware, for the cult's influence still lingers. They will seek to stop you. With the old man's guidance, Samantha, Agnes, and Max prepared for the ritual that would seal the talisman's dark power. The night of the new moon drew near, and the entire town seemed to hold its breath, as if it were aware of the impending confrontation. The night of the new moon arrived, shrouding Ravenswood in an inky darkness. Samantha, Agnes, and Max made their way to the clearing where they had found the talisman, carrying with them the grimoire and the knowledge of the ritual they had to perform. They set up candles in a protective circle. Just as they had seen in the book, as they began the incantation, a chilling wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing the candles and plunging them into darkness. The forest seemed to come alive with whispers and the sinister laughter of unseen entities. Samantha's heart raced, and Max stood protectively at her side. With trembling hands, they relit the candles and continued the incantation. The shadows around them seemed to writhe, growing more tangible and menacing. The air was heavy with the malevolent presence. Suddenly, figures emerged from the darkness, cloaked in tattered robes. The remnants of the cult had returned, drawn by the power of the talisman. They advanced slowly, their eyes empty and soulless. Samantha, Agnes, and Max stood their ground, determined to complete the ritual. As they neared the final incantation, the cult members began to chant in a guttural language, attempting to disrupt their progress. The forest itself seemed to conspire against them, with roots and branches reaching out to trip and ensnare them. But Samantha and Agnes pressed on, their voices unwavering. With a final, desperate incantation, the talisman's dark power was drawn into the earth, sealing it away once more. The cult members let out anguished cries as the shadows receded, and the forest fell silent. Ravenswood had been saved, but at a great cost. The town's history was forever scarred by the darkness that had been unleashed, and Samantha, Agnes, and Old Man Hawthorne knew that they could never truly erase the horrors they had faced. As they made their way back to town, the first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, dispelling the remnants of the curse. The once desolate town began to stir, its residents slowly awakening from the nightmarish grip of the talisman's power. The long, dark November finally gave way to the warmth of the approaching winter, and Samantha knew that her love for the autumn season had been forever changed. She had faced a darkness deeper than any she had ever known, and it had left an indelible mark on her soul.